There are moments in a man's life when he discovers that the walls of his own home have become a battleground, and he didn't even realize the war had begun. For me, that moment came on a Thursday evening, standing in the doorway of my 16-year-old daughter's bedroom, watching her cry over a plastic case of makeup. Now, I know what you're thinking. Makeup. Really? That's what this is about? A man standing in the hallway of his own house, contemplating the philosophical implications of cosmetics, while his daughter's tears fall onto her bedspread like small defeats, one after another. But let me tell you something about that makeup kit. It wasn't just makeup. It was $60 worth of MAC, which apparently is a very big deal in the world of 16-year-old girls. $60 that Zoe had saved for over a month. $60 that represented weekend babysitting jobs, helping neighbors with yard work, the kind of small economies that children build when they want something badly enough to work for it. And now it sat on her bed, destroyed. Someone, my niece Sloane to be precise, had opened every single color, mixed them together like a toddler with finger paints, and left the whole thing looking like a crime scene from a very fabulous murder. But this story isn't really about makeup either. It's about something more fundamental, more ancient than cosmetics or money or even family drama. It's about boundaries, about respect, about the moment when a father realizes that protecting his daughter means standing against everyone else he loves. Let me back up. 10 months ago, my brother-in-law Sammy lost his home. Divorce will do that to you. Rip through your life like a tornado through a trailer park, leaving you standing in the wreckage wondering what the hell just happened. His wife took half of everything, which meant Sammy got half of nothing, and suddenly he was a middle-aged man with 18-year-old twin daughters and nowhere to go. My wife's family, good, respectable people who show up to church on Sundays and post inspirational quotes on Facebook, looked the other way. Her parents claimed their house was too small. Her sister said her husband wouldn't allow it. Her brother with the 4-bedroom house said his kids needed their space. Everyone had a reason, a perfectly reasonable explanation for why they couldn't help Sammy and his daughters, Olivia and Sloane. So 2 months ago, they moved in with us. Because that's what you do, isn't it? When family needs help, you help them. You open your door, you share your space, you make room at the dinner table. It's what decent people do. Except nobody tells you that sometimes decency costs more than you plan to pay. Act 1. The Invasion. The thing about having 3 new people move into your home is that it's not just 3 people. It's 3 people's habits, 3 people's noise, 3 people's drama, 3 people's mess, 3 people's expectations, and 3 people's complete inability to understand that this is not their house. I don't want to sound ungracious. I really don't. Sammy's my brother-in-law, and I genuinely wanted to help him. But there's something that happens when people move into your space not as guests, but as refugees. They stop apologizing. They stop asking permission. They start treating your home like it's theirs, except without any of the responsibility that comes with ownership. Within the first week, I noticed things shifting. The refrigerator that used to hold our groceries was suddenly full of food I didn't recognize. The living room that used to be our quiet space after dinner became command central for Olivia and Sloane's social lives. Phones ringing, friends video calling, TikToks being filmed with increasingly elaborate setups involving our furniture. But the real problem started with Zoe's room. My daughter is 16. She's at that age where privacy isn't just a preference, it's a biological imperative. Her room is her sanctuary, the one place in the world where she can close the door and just be, whatever that means on any given day. Some days it means blasting music and dancing around in her pajamas. Some days it means crying over some boy who doesn't deserve her tears. Some days it means sitting on her bed, scrolling through her phone, existing in that strange adolescent limbo between childhood and whatever comes next. Her cousins didn't understand this. Or maybe they did, and they just didn't care. It started small. Olivia would borrow a hair tie, Sloane would just grab a phone charger. Then it escalated. Earbuds, clothes, books, notebooks with private thoughts written in them. That school laptop Zoe needed for her assignments, suddenly in the twins' room because they wanted to watch Netflix on a bigger screen. Zoe complained, first to me, then to her mother, then to the twins themselves. She was polite about it at first, the way young girls are taught to be, accommodating, not wanting to make waves, hoping that a gentle reminder would be enough. It wasn't enough. I sat the twins down. I used my dad voice, you know the one, that particular frequency that says, "I'm not angry, but I am very serious right now." I explained that Zoe's room was her private space, that her belongings were hers, that borrowing without asking is actually called taking, and taking without permission is actually called stealing. The twins nodded. They apologized. They promised it wouldn't happen again. It happened again. I spoke to Sammy, man to man, brother-in-law to brother-in-law, keeping it casual, not wanting to make it a big deal. "Hey, could you talk to your daughters about respecting Zoe's space?" He laughed. Actually laughed. "Come on, man. They're teenage girls. This is what teenage girls do. They share stuff. They borrow stuff. It's all part of being close. You're being too uptight about this." I turned to my wife. Surely she would understand. She's a woman. She was once a teenage girl herself. She knows what it's like to have your privacy violated, your things taken, your boundaries disrespected. But my wife sided with her brother. "It's not that big a deal," she said. "Zoe needs to learn to share. Family shares. That's what family does." And there it was, that word, family. The ultimate trump card, the conversation ender, the argument that makes you the villain if you disagree. But here's the thing about family, and I'm going to get a bit Ricky Gervais here for a moment. Family doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want without consequences. Family doesn't mean I can treat you like garbage and you have to take it because we share DNA. That's not family. That's a hostage situation with holiday dinners. Real family means respect. It means boundaries. It means understanding that your rights end where another person's begin, even if that person is your cousin, your sister, your brother, your whatever. But try explaining that when you're outnumbered 3-1 in your own house. Act 2. The Makeup Kit. 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock. The weeks passed. The borrowing continued. Zoe stopped complaining to her mother. She'd learned that lesson. Instead, she started moving things. Small things at first. Her favorite necklace, the one her grandmother gave her before she died. A journal with 2 years of private thoughts. Some birthday money she'd been saving. She asked her best friend if she could store a box at her house. "Just some stuff I don't want to lose," she told me when I found out. The defeat in her voice nearly broke me. This is what we'd done to her. We'd made my daughter feel unsafe in her own home. We taught her that her belongings, and by extension herself, were not worth protecting. That her needs were less important than the comfort of people who wouldn't even say thank you. Then came the makeup kit. Zoe had been saving for this thing for weeks. Every time I gave her lunch money, she'd pack a sandwich from home and save the cash. Every babysitting job, every little task she could pick up, into the fund it went. She showed me pictures of it on her phone, this MAC makeup kit that looked, to my untrained eye, like something you'd use to paint a very small house. "It's $60, Dad," she said, showing me the website. "But it's so beautiful.
Look at all these colors. And it'll last forever if I take care of it. If I take care of it. Those words haunt me now. She ordered it. It arrived. She opened it with the kind of reverence usually reserved for religious artifacts. She set it up on her dresser, organized every little pot and pan of color with the precision of a surgeon arranging instruments. It lasted 3 days. 3 days before Sloane decided she wanted to try that expensive makeup her cousin was hoarding. 3 days before those carefully organized colors became a muddy, swirled mess of brown and gray and disappointment. I came home to find Zoe crying. Not the angry crying of a wronged teenager, but the deep, soul-crushing crying of someone who's finally understood that the world is not fair, that the people who are supposed to protect you sometimes won't, and that sometimes hard work and patience and doing everything right still leaves you with nothing. The makeup kit sat on her bed. It looked like someone had taken a toddler's finger painting and put it in an expensive case. Every color contaminated, every shade ruined. $60 and a month of work destroyed in an afternoon of someone else's carelessness.
I went downstairs. My wife was making dinner. Sammy was watching TV. The twins were in their room, probably on their phones. Definitely not thinking about what they'd just done. "We need to talk," I said. My wife looked up from the cutting board. "What's wrong?" "Sloane took Zoe's makeup kit and destroyed it." "Oh." She put down the knife. "Well, I'm sure it was an accident. I'll ask her to apologize." An apology? For $60 worth of destroyed property? For a month of a teenager's savings? For the violation of trust that had been building for 2 months? An apology. That's when I knew. That's when I understood that this wasn't going to get better on its own. That my wife was so caught up in helping her brother that she couldn't see what it was costing our daughter. That Sammy was so entitled that he'd raised daughters who thought other people's belongings were community property. And that if I didn't do something, Zoe would learn the worst lesson a young woman can learn. That her boundaries don't matter. That her property isn't really hers. That the men in her life won't stand up for her when it counts. So I went to the hardware store and bought a lock. Act 3. The line in the sand. Installing that lock was one of the most satisfying things I've ever done. Every twist of the screwdriver felt like justice. Every test of the mechanism felt like reclaiming territory. By the time I was finished, Zoe had a lock on her door. A real one, with a key that only she and I had copies of. She looked at it like I'd just given her the moon. "Really?" she asked. "I can actually lock my door." "It's your room," I said. "Your space, your things. Nobody gets in unless you say so." She hugged me. Actually hugged me. This 16-year-old girl who'd recently decided hugging her parents was deeply uncool. She held on for a long moment, and when she pulled back, her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. "Thank you, Dad." 2 words. Thank you, Dad. 2 words that told me I'd done the right thing, even though I knew exactly what was coming next. What came next was Sloane noticing the lock first. She tried Zoe's door that evening, just walked right up and turned the handle like she owned the place, which, let's be honest, is exactly how she'd been acting, and found it locked. "Zoe?" she called. "Why is your door locked?" Zoe, bless her, didn't even open it, just called back through the door. "Because it's my room." The explosion happened at dinner. Sammy sat down at our table, our food, our table, our house, and immediately launched into it. "What's this about a lock on Zoe's door?" I put down my fork. "Exactly what it sounds like. Zoe has a lock on her door now." "Why?" Oh, here we go. The beautiful thing about obvious questions is that they make you wonder if the person asking is genuinely confused or just playing dumb. Because your daughters keep taking her things without permission, I said. Simple, factual, true. Sammy's face did this interesting thing where it turned red and indignant at the same time. My daughters aren't thieves. What are you implying? I wasn't implying anything. I was stating facts. But here's where it gets fun. And by fun, I mean infuriating in that very British way that Ricky Gervais would appreciate. I'm not implying anything, Sammy. Your daughters have repeatedly taken Zoe's belongings without asking. The most recent incident involved destroying a $60 makeup kit she'd saved for over a month. So yes, she now has a lock on her door. It's normal for girls to borrow each other's makeup, he shot back. They're cousins. They're family. Zoe could get another kit for $15 at Walmart anyway. She shouldn't be buying expensive adult makeup in the first place. That's something your wife needs to address. This defect in Zoe's personality, trying to appear older than she is. A defect. In my daughter's personality. For saving her own money to buy something she wanted. Let me just sit with that for a moment. This man, living rent-free in my house, eating my food, using my electricity, having his daughters destroy my daughter's property. This man just called my daughter defective for buying makeup with her own saved money. I felt something shift inside me. You know that feeling when you've been patient for too long, and suddenly you realize that patience isn't a virtue anymore. It's just enabling bad behavior. It's between me and my wife, I said, keeping my voice level. But my wife, Zoe's own mother, jumped in. He's right to be upset. You put a lock on Zoe's door. For her cousins to see. That's shameful. You're supposed to treat them like daughters. That lock is preventing them from spending time with Zoe. Spending time. That's what we're calling theft now. Spending time. The lock stays until they move out, I said. The silence that followed was the kind that shatters glass. My wife's face went white, then red. You want to kick out my brother? My family will hate you for this. And here's where I probably should have kept my mouth shut. Here's where a wiser man would have de-escalated, smoothed things over, found some diplomatic middle ground. But I was done being diplomatic. Your family? I said. Your family that refused to take in your brother? Your parents who said their house was too small? Your sister whose husband wouldn't allow it? Your brother with the 4-bedroom house? That family? The one that left you and me to deal with this because they couldn't be bothered. That's the family you're worried about disappointing? The truth has a way of landing like a punch. My wife stared at me. Sammy stared at me. The twins, who'd been watching this whole exchange like it was a reality show, suddenly looked very uncomfortable. If it wasn't for your family's unwillingness to help, I continued, we wouldn't be dealing with any of this. So maybe before you worry about them hating me, you should ask yourself why we're in this situation in the first place. Act 4. The silent treatment. What followed was what I can only describe as domestic psychological warfare disguised as maturity. The silent treatment. That passive-aggressive masterpiece where people pretend you don't exist while simultaneously making sure you know exactly how angry they are. Sammy stopped talking to me. The twins stopped talking to Zoe. They'd eat dinner in their rooms, emerge only when they knew we'd be out, organize their schedules to avoid us like we were carrying a communicable disease. My wife was caught in the middle, which made her furious at everyone, but especially at me. You've divided this family, she said. You've made everyone uncomfortable in their own home. Their own home. Interesting choice of words. But here's what nobody talks about with the silent treatment. It only works if you care about the approval of the people doing it. I didn't. Oh, don't get me wrong, it wasn't pleasant. Having people you live with refuse to acknowledge your existence creates this weird tension that hangs in the air like smoke. You can feel it when you walk into a room. You can taste it at the dinner table. It seeps into everything. But I wasn't the one who should have felt guilty. I'd provided a home for 3 people when their own family wouldn't. I'd been patient through weeks of boundary violations. I'd tried talking, reasoning, explaining. I'd done everything right. And now I was being punished for protecting my daughter. The person I worried about was Zoe. She was 16, still at that age where peer approval matters more than oxygen, still learning how to stand up for herself without feeling guilty about it. The silent treatment from her cousins hit her hard. I found her crying in her room one evening, her locked room, her safe space, the one place she could actually be alone now. "They hate me," she said. "Olivia and Sloane won't even look at me at school. Everyone thinks I'm a spoiled brat who got her cousins in trouble." I sat down on her bed. "Do you think you did something wrong?" She wiped her eyes. "I don't know. Maybe I should have just let them use my stuff. Maybe I'm being selfish." And there it was. The terrible thing that happens to young women, especially in this world. They're trained to doubt themselves, to wonder if standing up for their own boundaries makes them selfish, to feel guilty for taking up space and having needs and expecting basic respect. "Let me tell you something," I said. "The people who benefit from you not having boundaries will always make you feel selfish for wanting them. They'll call you dramatic. They'll say you're being difficult. They'll tell you that family means accepting whatever they do to you without complaint." She listened, really listened. "But that's not family. That's not love. That's manipulation. And you deserve better than that. You deserve to have your own space, your own things, your own life. And anyone who makes you feel bad for wanting that doesn't actually care about you. They only care about what they can get from you." She nodded slowly. "So the lock was the right thing?" "The lock was absolutely the right thing. And I'm sorry I didn't install it sooner." Act 5. The Reckoning. 2 weeks after the lock went on, my wife finally broke. We were getting ready for bed. The silent treatment was still in full effect downstairs. The house felt like a cold war. Everything polite on the surface, everything hostile underneath. "This can't go on," she said. I agree. She looked at me, surprised. "You do?" "Yes. They need to leave." Her face fell. "That's not what I meant. I meant you need to take the lock off Zoe's door and apologize. We need to go back to normal." "This is normal now," I said. "This is what normal looks like when 3 people move into your house and refuse to respect basic boundaries. This is what normal looks like when your brother raises daughters who think other people's property is theirs for the taking. This is what normal looks like when you choose your brother's comfort over your daughter's dignity." "That's not fair." "Isn't it? Tell me, when was the last time you stood up for Zoe? When was the last time you told your brother his daughters were out of line? When was the last time you chose our daughter over your family's expectations?" She couldn't answer, because we both knew the truth. "The lock stays," I said. "And if you want this situation to change, then your brother needs to find somewhere else to live. Because I'm not going to raise our daughter in a house where she feels like a prisoner in her own room. I'm not going to teach her that being female means accepting whatever violations come her way. And I'm not going to stand by while your family treats our home like a hotel where the staff owes them something." "They have nowhere else to go," she whispered. "That's not our problem anymore. They had 10 months to figure it out. Your parents have a house. Your sister has a house. Your other brother has a house. They all chose not to help. Why is it our responsibility to destroy our daughter's sense of safety for people who wouldn't do the same for us?" The conversation ended there. I don't know if I got through to her. I don't know if she understands yet what's at stake. But I know this. Tomorrow morning, that lock will still be on Zoe's door. Tomorrow morning, My daughter will wake up in a room where she feels safe. Tomorrow morning, she'll know that at least one person in this house values her enough to stand up for her, even when it costs him. There's a Paulo Coelho quote I think about sometimes. When we love, we always strive to become better than we are. When we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. But here's what Coelho doesn't tell you. Sometimes becoming better means standing alone. Sometimes it means being the villain in someone else's story. Sometimes it means choosing one person's peace over everyone else's comfort. I installed a lock on my daughter's door, and suddenly I was the bad guy, the ungrateful brother-in-law, the overprotective father, the man who couldn't just let things go and keep the peace. But Zoe sleeps better now. She smiles more. She stopped moving her belongings out of the house. She looks at me with trust instead of defeat. And if that makes me the villain in everyone else's story, so be it. Because in my daughter's story, the only story that really matters, I'm the father who chose her, who protected her, who taught her that her boundaries matter, that her voice deserves to be heard, that she is worth fighting for. The lock stays. Not because I want to punish anyone, not because I'm trying to make a point, not because I'm stubborn or difficult or any of the other things they're calling me. The lock stays because my daughter deserves a door she can close, a space she can trust, a father who keeps his promises. The lock stays because that's what love looks like sometimes. And if my brother-in-law, his daughters, and yes, even my wife can't understand that, then they're the ones who need to learn what family really means.